Berkshire buys $4 billion worth of Google, driving the stock price higher as the rest of the market continues to struggle, even though the government is back in session. Pretty interesting day, so stick around, should be a great video. Hello, my YouTube friends. Happy Monday. Before I forget, and before I even get into the video, don't forget tomorrow, 11 a.m., I am going to be doing another live. I hope you guys can make it. It's a lot of fun. I really like the platform and the way things play out. It allows me to have a little bit of a conversation. I know the time isn't great for everybody because it's middle of the day and a lot of people are working. It just kind of works for me, which is a little bit selfish. I'll put up a little, character about my selfishness when I get into it. Anyway, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Adam Kahn, and this is Investing with Adam K. I hope everybody had an awesome weekend. I hope your Monday is going okay. The stock market seems to be struggling a bit, even though Berkshire bought some Google, which seems to be driving the stock higher. I always find that kind of funny in some ways because they only report that stuff quarterly, and I understand they are smart and they're good at what they do, but it is no guarantee of what Google or any other company is going to do going forward. So I find it kind of almost comical that a company will shoot higher simply because an investor invested in it. Unfortunately, the overall market seems to continue to have a slow bleed, which has me concerned because typically when that happens, eventually it has to have a blow off sale. Same to the upside, which is kind of what I was waiting for, but it seems to have fizzled out. It seems to be going the other way, and I'm just recognizing what I see in the price action. I am not super doom and gloom, but I think we might have gotten to the point where people are stretched too far. The housing market finally has enough inventory to keep some pressure on the housing market. I think gold has run too far. I see Bitcoin beginning to fall off pretty good, which is typically a sign of the NASDAQ and risk assets in general. And all of these things coming together as we're pushing towards the end of the year, I really would hate to see a really big sell off now, but in some ways, I guess that's probably healthier for the economy. People have been complaining a long time about being overstretched and not able to keep up. Unfortunately, that's typically life. And when a correction comes around and potentially a recession, it doesn't make it easier on the people who are already stretched because what ends up happening in that scenario, not a prediction, is that job losses are what comes next, which is exactly what the Fed has been concerned about. Now, I think they might be a little behind the eight ball in order to cut and try to get ahead of it, but along with their cloudiness and lack of vision and driving in the fog, as Powell said, I think that's a scenario we might be running into. Now, again, I'm not super gloom and doom. I don't see like it's never the same as before. The problem is, I think we've gotten a little ahead of ourselves, and it sounds like there's too much credit card debt, there's too much leverage in the stock market. I actually put myself in a pretty good cash position in preparation in case something comes along. Now, keep in mind, that doesn't mean I've made in any alterations at this point in my set it and forget it account. I really do keep that separately as just something that kind of sits around. But in the stuff that I use for my day to day and my trading account, I wanted to make sure that there was enough of a buffer around in case we go through a rocky road. I'm hoping it's short lived and we have some opportunity because when I look at earnings and what's going on, they actually look pretty decent. The only thing that has me concerned is when I dig into the stuff that Michael Burry, I might have pronounced his name incorrectly, a little bit and see that it if the books are being cooked a little bit. And I don't want to say anybody's making stuff up because that's not really what he's saying, but what he's saying is the way that they use depreciation isn't so honest. It's making it seem like they're not spending as much as they really are. The other thing is that makes me optimistic on the other end is the CapEx is legitimate. Like they're spending the money they really are, especially a company like Meta that has enough funds coming in from all of the advertising and all of the money that they make to be able to make the investment that they plan to. Now, I think if things actually slow down, it's easy enough for them to pull the reins in and not spend so much. And what I find interesting about the timing of the sell off continuing is the government's gotten back in session. Airlines seem to be getting things settled. Like there's a lot of good going on that should have caught the market, which bothers me in the sense that since it hasn't, makes me think it has more room to go. I think at some point there'll be some catalyst, or Trump will tweet something to turn it around and it'll be a big gap higher. But like I said, I have the set it and forget it account. I think it's important to separate the things where you just leave it and don't really pay attention and plan to look at it in 10 years. But here's the weird thing. The weird thing is that it does look to me like the markets are finally correcting earlier than I expected. Like I said, I see Bitcoin where it is, which I see as kind of a risk asset. I see the high flyers and the Mag 7s beginning to correct. And I don't think it's the Michael Burry thing, but I think what he talked about makes a lot of sense and could have some follow through. And it really does bother me that we haven't seen panic or any real explosion like I'd like to see. When markets trend slowly and keep bleeding, generally there's a day of reckoning where the panic sets in. And even when I watch CNBC and listen to the commentators, I'm noticing that they're justifying a lot of the recent moves that were still near the highs. But where I was concerned, even though I thought we'd see a parabolic run up before it corrected and came the other way, was people really are stretched. The inflation is legit. People have been struggling a long time, and at some point that was going to come to a head. Is it right now? I don't know. I'm not really making a prediction now, and I'm going to make my little disclaimer. As always, this is not financial advice. Please don't listen to me or anybody else on YouTube when making financial decisions. You need to do your own research. Reach out to a financial advisor because I am not a financial advisor, and make your own decisions when it comes to investing. Shouldn't be listening to anybody on YouTube to make those decisions. Like, and there are plenty of guys I really like what they talk about and they have good advice. But the reality is there's no substitute for doing what you need to match what your financial goals are. And the real hope is that we don't have some huge collapse and nothing happens that's super crazy and we just have a normal ebb and flow of a market. The problem is we've gotten ahead of ourselves on so many levels. The housing's gotten too high. The stock market's gone too far. The gold has gone too far. Bitcoin, here's my biggest struggle. And for full disclosure, I have a little bit of Bitcoin. I am an actual believer in it as well. The problem is it could be tulip bulbs. Like there is no way, like it could, nothing would surprise me in Bitcoin. It could go to zero, it could go to a million, and anything in between wouldn't shock me. What I do worry about is the guys like Michael Saylor that are such believers and get over leveraged that the big guys are able to do an analysis of how far they need to push either Bitcoin, his stock, or both to squeeze him out of a trade. And you might run into a situation where they gang up together. And I don't mean what's the word I'm looking for, where it's like evil. I don't mean like they're actually discussing it and having conversations and doing something malicious to run the market against him. But what I am saying is you might have one or two doing it separately that start seeing traction helping that happening, that eventually gains steam and puts to a point that he's forced out of his position. And since his position is so big, he'll drive that market even further. And if Bitcoin is a thing that's worth owning and whatever else, it then creates an opportunity for the people who push that market against him, causing it to go down so much, to be able to reverse and pick up those things and put them in their war chest of things that they own. But Bitcoin really could go to zero and it could go straight up. It's hard to really know what it is. I kind of think of it like gold or silver or anything else. There is no real value to that stuff other than the value that we give it. And I just feel like a lot of things have run really far and we might see a money suck out of everything. I hate to sound so negative. I'm really not that gloom and doom guy. I just think there's so many things coming together all at once that I would be really cautious, and I would make sure to be well diversified and cover your end any way you can in general. Don't get overly speculative. Don't take on a lot of debt. Just live your lives, work your job, make your income, put away for the future, and do a good mix of things that are safe and risky and completely safe so that no matter what happens, if we run into a scenario where we have a big correction, it's not anything that impacts you all that much. And if we don't, you have something invested so you get to take part in it. Anyway, again, don't forget tomorrow, 11 o'clock, Tuesday, Pacific time, middle of the day. Super selfish of me because I know a lot of people work jobs, but it fits my schedule. I hope some of you can make it. I really do love the live um, platform. I think it's super cool. I wish more people would show because it's fun. I probably will tell some old war stories from trading days because it was interesting when I started talking about some of that. I noticed that the people who were there kind of stuck around and watched and listened, and it made it kind of fun. So I'll talk about some of that as well as my usual market talk, and then hopefully be able to answer questions. Now, my computer is having all sorts of problem. It's not connecting to Wi-Fi, and it's a work computer, and I don't really have another laptop. I was hoping to have one available so that if somebody had a question about a specific stock that I could actually dig into it and look. Maybe I'll go into the office and do it from there so I have my desktop, but it's nice when I sit outside. Anyway, have a great Monday. I'll see you guys tomorrow if you can make it. If you haven't already, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, and make some comments in the comment section. Have a good day.